Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into Intuit.
Okay.
The ticker symbol is INTU,
Mm.
and we're really going to try and get to the bottom of whether or not this is a stock you should consider for your portfolio.
Right.
We've got a bunch of really cool stuff to go over.
Yeah.
We've got their earnings calls, analyst reports,
Mm-hmm.
and even some political news that could impact their stock price.
Interesting.
So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, Intuit's in a really interesting position right now.
Okay.
They're kind of at a crossroads, like their household name,
Totally.
TurboTax, QuickBooks,
Yeah.
Credit Karma.
For sure.
Chances are you've used at least one of their products.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they have their fingers in so many parts of our financial lives, and they operate across 4 main segments.
Okay.
Small business and self-employed,
Okay.
consumer,
Mm-hmm.
Credit Karma,
Yeah.
and ProConnect.
ProConnect, okay.
And they're huge.
Yeah, they're massive.
Their market cap is $177.72 billion.
Wow.
And their revenue for the past year was $16.59 billion.
Huge.
But here's the thing.
All right.
Their stock price is at $634.62,
Okay.
down slightly by 0.86% in the last day.
Okay, interesting.
So the question is,
All right.
is this a good time to buy?
Yeah, is Intuit a buy right now?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
All right. Well, let's dig in and find out.
Yeah, let's take a look.
What should we pay attention to?
Well, one of the biggest things is their investment in AI.
Okay.
They're rolling out this new Intuit Assist feature for QuickBooks.
Okay.
And it seems like they're really excited about it based on the earnings calls.
You
They think
see-
AI is really going to make their products more user-friendly
Mhm.
and kind of create a done-for-you experience.
I see.
So they're making a big bet.
On AI
Exactly.
to drive growth.
Hoping it'll give them an edge over the competition.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
not all good news.
Hmm.
They had a strong first quarter,
Good.
beat expectations and all that.
Good.
But there's been some talk about customers leaving MailChimp,
Really?
especially smaller businesses.
Ah.
And on top of that,
Okay.
there's this whole political thing happening
Oh.
about a possible government-backed free tax app.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine if TurboTax suddenly had to compete with a free government app?
Yeah.
It's making investors pretty nervous.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it really throws a wrench in things.
So it sounds like there's some mixed signals.
Yeah, definitely.
On the one hand, they're doing well financially,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got this big AI strategy.
Right.
But on the other hand, they're losing some customers.
Yeah,
And there's this political uncertainty.
exactly.
So what do the analysts think?
Well, it's pretty interesting, actually.
Oh.
Most of them seem to be positive about Intuit's future,
Really?
even with all these challenges.
Huh.
Even big institutions like Evercore ISI,
Wow.
Citigroup, and RBC Capital, they've all given Intuit positive ratings recently.
So Wall Street seems to think Intuit will be all right.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
But there is one analyst who's a bit more cautious,
Oh, who's that?
Mark Murphy from Credit Suisse.
Okay.
He's got a more negative outlook.
Interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how his opinion changes over time.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Definitely. Let's take a closer look at their recent earnings transcript
Okay?
to see what's actually going on with their financials.
Yeah, let's dive into the numbers.
So in Q1 of fiscal year 2025,
Okay.
they brought in $3.3 billion in revenue.
All right.
That's a 10% jump compared to the same period last year.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is.
So how about profitability?
Well, to understand that, we need to look at both GAAP and non-GAAP operating income.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah,
Could you explain what those terms mean?
sure.
For those of us who aren't, financial experts,
Of course.
what's the difference between GAAP and non-GAAP?
GAAP stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles.
Okay.
It's a strict set of rules for financial reporting.
Got it.
Non-GAAP, on the other hand,
Yeah.
often excludes things like one-time costs or stock-based compensation.
Okay.
So it gives you a clearer picture of how the core business is doing.
Oh, that makes sense.
So Intuit's GAAP operating income was $271 million.
Okay.
But their non-GAAP operating income was much higher at $953 million.
Interesting. So they're actually more profitable than it might initially seem.
Exactly.
So are they on track to meet their projections for the whole year?
It looks like it.
Okay.
Their guidance for fiscal year 2025 is projecting a 12% to 13% growth in total revenue
Wow.
and a 13% to 14% growth in non-GAAP operating income.
Okay.
But remember, these projections came out before the news about the government-backed tax app.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if they change their outlook later on.
Yeah, that political situation could definitely have an impact. But for now, at least they're projecting some pretty strong growth.
Absolutely.
But what about that MailChimp churn we talked about?
No way.
It sounded like they were losing some of their smaller customers.
Yeah, it seems like some of their recent product updates,
Okay.
while they're good for larger businesses,
Yeah.
they haven't really been working for the smaller guys.
So they're trying to cater to everyone, and it's backfiring a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. They need to make sure they don't lose their core users. But to be fair, Intuit knows about this problem and they're working on it.
Okay.
In their earnings calls, they've mentioned that they're focusing on improving usability
Right.
and feature discoverability,
Okay.
especially for those smaller businesses.
That's good to hear.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Definitely.
And speaking of challenges,
Uh-oh.
that potential government-backed free tax app,
Right.
that could be a real game changer.
For sure.
It's easy to see how a free option,
Yeah.
especially one endorsed by the government,
Exactly.
could really hurt TurboTax's market share.
Big time.
The people who support this idea, they argue that a government-run option would level the playing field,
Okay. I can see that.
especially for taxpayers who can't afford the paid software.
Right.
But Intuit says free tax software already exists
Mm-hmm.
and that the government should be spending money on other things.
Interesting.
They also argue that a new government program would just be redundant and maybe even inefficient.
So it's a classic debate then.
Yeah.
About government versus private enterprise.
Exactly.
And it's not going away anytime soon.
Definitely not.
So how is all this uncertainty impacting Intuit's stock price?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a factor.
Well.
Investors get nervous when there's a chance of a big new competitor entering the market,
Right.
especially one with the government's backing.
For sure. A lot of unknowns there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's switch gears for a second
Okay.
and focus back on Intuit's strengths.
Yeah.
Their investment in AI seems to be a real bright spot.
Definitely.
Can you tell us more about Intuit Assist
Sure.
and how it's changing things for QuickBooks users?
Imagine Intuit Assist as a virtual financial assistant
Okay.
that lives right inside QuickBooks.
Got it.
It can handle a lot of those tedious tasks,
Yeah, like what?
like categorizing transactions,
Okay.
generating invoices, even reconciling bank statements.
So it's taking care of the stuff a lot of small business owners hate doing.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
by automating all that,
Yeah,
Intuit is trying to make QuickBooks much more user-friendly.
that makes sense.
And if you listen to their earnings calls, you'll hear them talk a lot about done-for-you experiences.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
It seems like that's their big focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
They think this AI-driven approach will keep their current customers happy,
Okay.
but also attract new ones.
Especially people who maybe aren't as familiar with accounting.
Right.
So basically, they're
Yeah.
streamlining processes.
Exactly.
So business owners can focus on what they're good at.
Yeah. That's the idea.
And it sounds like investors are buying into this AI vision.
They seem to be.
They see Intuit as a forward-thinking company.
Mhm.
Not just keeping up with the times,
Right.
but actually shaping the future.
Exactly.
That's a powerful narrative.
It is?
So where does all this leave us?
Yeah.
We've looked at Intuit's performance, their AI strategy,
Right.
and the challenges they're facing.
Yeah.
What's your overall take?
I think Intuit has a really solid foundation.
Huh?
They've got those well-known brands,
Yeah.
a loyal customer base,
Mm-hmm.
and a history of adapting to change.
Right.
Those are huge advantages.
Absolutely.
And they're not afraid to make big bets.
Like with AI.
Exactly.
And their early success with Intuit Assist suggests they could be onto something big.
It does.
But we can't forget about those potential problems either.
Right.
Like the MailChimp churn.
Yeah. And that possible government-backed tax app.
For sure. Those could really change things.
They could.
So we'll need to see how those situations play out.
Definitely the next few quarters will be crucial.
It's been a really interesting deep dive so far.
Oh, has.
We've covered a lot,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's still more to uncover.
Oh, absolutely.
We've only scratched the surface of Intuit's story.
We have.
So in the final part of our analysis, we're going to dive deeper into those analyst reports
Okay.
and see what those diverse perspectives on Intuit's future potential really look like.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned. So let's get into those analyst reports.
All right, yeah. Let's see what Wall Street thinks about all this.
It looks like the general feeling is cautious optimism.
Okay.
Most analysts seem to agree that there are these short-term challenges,
Yeah, we've talked about those.
but they also think Intuit is in a good position for long-term growth.
Okay, so they think they can handle it.
That seems to be the consensus.
Okay.
They point to Intuit's strong brand recognition,
Right.
their large customer base, and their history of adapting to change, embracing innovation.
Right. Always staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And they see those as major assets.
That'll help them deal with whatever comes next.
Exactly.
And we talked about those big institutions earlier, like
Yeah.
Evercore ISI and Citigroup and RBC Capital.
Right.
Are they the ones who are most bullish on Intuit?
They are.
Okay.
They've all given Intuit positive ratings recently.
And what are they saying specifically?
Well, they highlight Intuit's market dominance,
Mm-hmm.
their strategic acquisitions,
Okay.
and, of course, their big push into AI.
Right. They're all in on AI.
It seems so.
But what about Mark Murphy from Credit Suisse?
Oh, right, him.
He wasn't so optimistic.
He wasn't.
What are his concerns?
Well, he's worried about growth slowing down
Okay.
in their core markets.
Makes sense.
And he's also pointed out the potential impact of rising interest rates on consumer spending,
Yeah.
which could then affect Intuit's profits,
So he's taking a more cautious approach.
factoring in those broader economic uncertainties.
Right. It's always good to consider those different viewpoints.
Yeah, you need to see all sides of the story.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive here.
Yeah, I think so.
We've looked at Intuit's business model,
Mm-hmm.
their financials,
Their AI strategy.
the challenges they're facing.
Right. And what the experts think.
So what's the bottom line
Well,
for someone thinking about investing in Intuit?
it's tough to say for sure.
Yeah,
Investing always involves risk.
right.
You have to weigh the potential downsides against the potential upside.
No easy answers.
Exactly.
But based on what we've seen,
Yeah.
it seems like Intuit is a strong company
Mm-hmm.
with a good track record.
Definitely.
And their investment in AI is definitely exciting,
It is.
especially with features like Intuit Assist.
It can really give them an edge.
But those challenges are still out there.
They are.
The MailChimp churn,
Mm-hmm.
that potential government-backed tax app, those are big question marks.
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens.
Okay, so it's a bit of a wait-and-see situation.
I think so.
Well, it's been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've learned a lot about Intuit.
Yeah, they're a really interesting company.
And now I want to hear from you, our listeners.
Yeah.
What do you think about Intuit?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a good investment?
What other factors would you consider?
Let us know in the comments below.
And don't forget
To subscribe to the channel
and hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss out on our future deep dives.
We'll be exploring all sorts of interesting topics.
From tech to the global economy.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Until next time.
Happy investing.